Mr. Slim Amamou, thank you for being here. We would like to ask you some questions because in our survey we asked also some questions about the Arab Spring. And one of them was how the EU should deal with the Arab Spring from now on. And a majority of our respondents answers that they would like to see the EU contribute with funding for pro-democracy movements. From your perspective, is that the right way to go? Is that what young Arabs really want?
It's one way to do things, but you know, there are different types of support. Arab Spring could mean a lot of things, could include a lot of countries, and it's a different situation from country to country. For instance, the situation in Syria is very different from the situation was in Tunisia and from the situation in Egypt. So you have to be careful, even in funding. Those regimes are criminal, and for an organization or people to receive funding from foreigners, it could be deadly in certain situations. So it's not as easy as that.
Yeah, we have to make sure that if we fund an organization, that it is really a democratic one. That's what you're basically saying.
But I think the real problem is to find an organization which is willing to get funded, because and then if you don't have enough organization, you won't fund just the organizations that are accepting funding, even if they're not democratic, because it's dangerous with regard to the regimes, and then it's also gives a bad image of the organization to accept funding from foreigners, especially if they're fighting for local requests.
3/4 of the young Europeans did not feel that the EU was doing a good job in Libya, or thought that it was left to the individual states. What is your opinion on that question?
My opinion is that the EU was well informed, better probably informed about the situation in Libya than the government themselves. Because the EU probably has a tradition of openness than the government. So they know the people in Libya, or they have contacts in the people in Libya. And
but did you feel that they did it in the right way, like a military intervention, and mainly the initiatives left to the individual state instead of the EU as a whole?
I think they did it in the right way. I think the EU, I understand the EU had taken time to reflect on the situation, because it knew that the situation was different from Tunisia and Egypt, and the forces there are different. And I think the states that intervened also did well in the end. It was because they didn't intervene directly militarily. They knew how to intervene in the right way, by empowering the rebellion.
Okay, and how do you think that more revolutions will follow in Syria, Yemen, Bahrain? And then as the last question, how is the situation now in Tunisia?
I think there will be more changes all over the Arab world, and important changes, either with a revolution or without a revolution, which is better in a certain sense.
Through democratic reform, you mean?
Yeah, democratic reforms, changes in terms of freedom, and I think it's not always the best solution to have a revolution. I think probably we should give a break to the crazy dictators, so they could have the time to think about what they're doing, and to leave them the space to just go away and leave the people rule themselves.
Mm-hmm. And how is it in Tunisia now, right after the elections?
The situation in Tunisia is we now have a constituent assembly which is meeting regularly. We're trying to push for transparency. They are trying to push the powers of the constitution. I mean, the Islamists and the majority in the constitution trying to push for less transparency, and we are trying to lobby. Tomorrow there will be a demonstration in front of the assembly for having all the debates broadcasted and the most transparency we can get. And so this is the current struggle.
We being the liberal young Tunisians, I presume.
Yeah, we are the liberal young Tunisians, and the young Tunisians in general, even the not so liberal guys. No. I'm sorry.
No. It's your timer, you have to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.